Nobody tells you this before you make your first million. They tell you about the yacht, the house, the freedom. What they don't tell you is that the day your bank account changes, something else changes too. Quietly, in the background, without an announcement. Your family starts looking at you differently. Some of them will be proud of you, genuinely, deeply proud, but others will feel something they can't quite name. A strange mixture of admiration and resentment, love and distance, pride and pain. And almost none of them will ever say it out loud. Here's the question nobody wants to ask. Why does money, something that's supposed to make life easier, so often make family relationships harder? Why do so many self-made millionaires say the same haunting thing? Success didn't change me. It changed everyone around me. Stay with us because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this happens. And more importantly, how the smartest, most emotionally intelligent people handle it without losing the people they love. Picture a young man named Daniel, not a real person. A composite of thousands of stories just like his. Daniel grew up in a small apartment, sharing a room with two siblings. His parents worked double shifts. Money was the tension that sat quietly at the dinner table every single night. Daniel made a promise to himself. One day he would change everything, not just for him, for all of them. Years later, after countless failures, sleepless nights, and one business idea that finally worked, Daniel became a millionaire, the first one in his family's history. He imagined the moment he'd tell them. He imagined his mother crying tears of joy. He imagined family dinners filled with laughter instead of stress. He imagined finally being able to give back everything they had sacrificed for him. And for a while, that's exactly what happened. But then something strange started happening. Small things. His uncle joking a little too often about borrowing money. His cousin suddenly texting after 3 years of silence. His own brother going quiet at family gatherings. Answering questions with short, clipped sentences. Daniel brushed it off. Just people adjusting, he thought. But nobody talks about what happened next. Because this is where the real story begins. Not the story of how Daniel made his money, but the story of what his money did to the people around him. And if you've ever dreamed of being the first person in your family to make it, you need to understand this before it happens to you. Here's an uncomfortable truth psychologists have studied for decades. Humans don't judge their happiness by their own life alone. They judge it by comparison. This is called social comparison theory, and it explains almost everything that happens inside a family after one person becomes wealthy. We don't measure our success against strangers on the other side of the world. We measure it against the people closest to us, our siblings, our cousins, our childhood best friends. So when your brother, who grew up in the same house, eating the same meals, watching the same struggles, suddenly becomes a millionaire, it doesn't just feel like his win. For many people, it unconsciously feels like a measurement of their own life. And that measurement can be painful. It's not that they don't love you. It's that your success accidentally becomes a mirror, reflecting back every choice they didn't make, every risk they were too afraid to take, every year they spent playing it safe. Think about it this way. Imagine two people run the same race, side by side for 20 years. Then suddenly one of them crosses the finish line, and the other looks around and realizes they're still running. That's what it can feel like to be the sibling, the cousin, the childhood friend of the first millionaire in the family. And here's where expectations begin quietly building. Family members start telling themselves stories. They have so much now, surely they can help me. They wouldn't even notice if they gave me some. If they really loved us, they'd share more. None of this is usually said directly. It builds underneath the surface, in comments made as a joke, in slightly colder tones during phone calls, in invitations that stop coming. But this is where everything changes. Because once money enters a family system, it doesn't just add value, it adds tension. Every wealthy person who built something from nothing describes a strikingly similar pattern. Not identical people, but identical roles that seem to appear in almost every family, like characters in a play nobody auditioned for. The proud supporter. This is the family member who celebrates you without asking for anything. They tell their friends about you. They defend you when others gossip. Ironically, they are often the rarest of the five and the most valuable. The silent, jealous one. They never say a negative word out loud, but you feel it. A tightness in their voice, a joke that has a little too much edge to it. They smile in front of you, but something has shifted, and you can't quite explain what. The person who wants financial help. This one is the most complicated because the need is often real. A struggling parent, a cousin drowning in debt, a sibling who lost their job. Their requests start small, then grow, and saying no starts to feel like betrayal, even when it isn't. The relative who suddenly reappears. An aunt you haven't spoken to in a decade, a distant cousin from your father's side. People who were never part of your life before suddenly want to reconnect right around the time your success became public knowledge. The family member who thinks you changed. This might be the most painful one. Someone close to you, a sibling, a parent, an old friend, starts saying you're different now. Not because your values changed, but because you started saying no to things you used to always say yes to. Here's the twist almost nobody expects. It's rarely the money itself that damages these relationships. It's the meaning everyone attaches to the money. But this is where the real cost begins to show up. And it isn't financial. There's a quiet kind of loneliness that almost never gets talked about in wealth culture. The loneliness of being the one who made it. Many first-generation millionaires describe carrying an invisible weight. Guilt. Guilt for having more than their parents ever had. Guilt for buying a home while a sibling still struggles to pay rent. Guilt for feeling happy when happiness used to be shared equally among everyone in the family. And now it isn't. This guilt often creates a dangerous pattern psychologists call the family ATM role, where a person quietly becomes the emergency fund for everyone around them. Not because they were asked once, but because they were asked again and again, and eventually it became an unspoken expectation. And here's the emotional trap. Every time they say yes, the relationship feels warm and safe. But every time they say no, even when no is the healthy, necessary answer, it can trigger conflict, guilt, or distance. This is where many wealthy people start to feel something unexpected, isolation. Not because they lack people around them, but because they start wondering who genuinely wants them and who wants what they can provide. One common reflection heard again and again from people who reach financial success is this. Money didn't just buy freedom. It also revealed which relationships were built on connection and which were quietly built on need. That is a heavy realization. And it's one almost nobody warns you about. So the question becomes, how do you protect the relationships that matter without losing yourself in the process? The wealthiest, most emotionally grounded people share one skill that has nothing to do with finance. They learn how to set boundaries without guilt. Boundaries don't mean cutting people off. They mean deciding clearly and calmly what you are willing to give and what you are not. A boundary might sound like, I love you and I want to support you, but I can't be your only financial plan. That sentence is not selfish. It's sustainable. Financially healthy people also learn a critical truth. Money can solve a financial problem, but it usually cannot solve an emotional one. Giving a struggling relative cash might ease the moment. But if the deeper issue is spending habits, avoidance, or unresolved family patterns. Money alone will not fix it. And sometimes it makes it worse. This is why many self-made millionaires shift from simply giving money to offering structured help instead, paying for a course instead of covering rent indefinitely, or investing in someone's business instead of handing over blank checks. It protects both people, the giver and the receiver. And perhaps the most important shift of all is this: understanding that you are not responsible for managing everyone else's feelings about your success. Their jealousy is not your failure. Their expectations are not automatically your obligation. You can hold immense love for your family while still protecting your own peace. This is the quiet, invisible skill separating those who build generational wealth from those who lose it just as fast as they gained it. Not intelligence, not luck, but emotional boundaries. Here's the truth that ties this entire story together. Success does not create character. It reveals it. The sibling who becomes distant wasn't made jealous by your money. That emotion was already there, waiting quietly beneath the surface. The relative who reappears wasn't made opportunistic by your wealth. They simply found a new reason to act on it. And the ones who stay proud, steady, and loving through it all, they were always like that. Your success simply gave you the clearest view of who was standing beside you the whole time. Money doesn't change people nearly as much as it changes expectations. And learning to navigate those expectations with boundaries, with clarity, and without losing your humility might be the real test of wealth. Not the money itself, but who you become while holding it. So here's the real lesson. If you ever become the first millionaire in your family, don't just prepare your finances. Prepare your heart. Because the hardest part of building wealth was never the money. It was learning who to keep close and who to let go, with love and without guilt. If you became the first millionaire in your family, how do you think your relationships would change? Tell us in the comments below, and subscribe for more videos exploring the psychology of money, success, and human relationships.